guys, just an update from the initial seed planting video of all these different veggies. I promised that I would show how large everything's gotten over time. Basically, today I want to transplant some of the stuff that's kind of outgrown its little containers. Today's April 20th, and I believe I planted these about a month ago in March. So about a month of growth. Today's kind of like the first day where it's about 70 degrees up here, so it's quite warm in this greenhouse now as opposed to when I initially planted it. I adjusted the timer for the heating mat to only come on at night, so that way it keeps the temperature up. It can still kind of variable, or the temperature can be variable until about, I don't know, after Mother's Day is when we normally expect our last frost. So I'm hoping to keep it on until about May, and then I'll turn off those heating pads. And from there, I'm going to just keep planting these different veggies that have grown outside of their normal tray cell. And I'm going to put them in like red solo cups. Basically, I saw a farmer in the Central Valley use these when he was growing some seedlings, and I thought it was a really good idea. You know, you just buy these and you can reuse them every year. You just gotta drill a hole in the bottom. So I have these cups which are a few years old. Yeah, they aren't gonna like last forever. You know, they get brittle from the sun, but it's really cheap. You just go to Costco and get a bunch of them, and that way you don't have to pay like a premium fee from like a greenhouse store. So, you know, just make sure there's a hole in the bottom so water will drain. Otherwise, your plants, otherwise your plants will drown basically, because the roots need oxygen to actually grow. Unlike the top of the plant, which needs CO2, the roots use oxygen for their metabolism, and you don't want it waterlogged. Only a few plants can really handle that much water and lack of oxygen. So with that, I'll grab the camera and I'll show you the different veggies and how they are growing so far. So right here we have basically all the broccolis, kales, cauliflowers, anything in the Brassicaceae family. They germinate at like 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so not really, you don't really need a heating pad, and they can take off in the greenhouse really well. These are definitely the largest plants I have so far. And then next to them, I had another row of like a Brussels sprout, and then you have all these different lettuces we're growing. These I'll probably directly sow into a raised garden bed. And then in the back behind there, I think we have some cilantro coming up. That took a little longer to germinate than I expected. Now you get over here, and I think I have some parsley in the front, and then all of these back here are quinoa. And my understanding with quinoa is that the plant's leaves can actually be eaten like spinach. So it's actually supposedly tastes kind of like spinach and kind of same nutrient profile. But of course at the end, if you let it flower, you can get these big old stalks of seed. You dry those and then you can make your own quinoa. I'm kind of curious how it does up here because quinoa is native to the South American Andes, and so it actually grows well at high elevation and doesn't need a lot of water or nutrients in the soil. So up here, maybe it'll kind of have a similar thriving pattern, but you know, at that point I'm kind of worried that maybe it'll just keep seeding everywhere and then we'll have quinoa everywhere. But it's a good thing it tastes so good. Right here I have a bunch of the different tomatoes. They've done pretty well. There's a few that actually got kind of the this mold stuff. I think it's called damping off, or at least that's what the general disease is called, where it's a little bit too moist. So maybe initially it was like too cold and moist, and some of them basically wilted and died at the base. But if you know anything about tomatoes, these things get pretty big. So I have plenty of tomatoes to plant in the garden. Right here in the front, we have one final row of tomato, which they actually have grown larger than the other ones, followed by tomatillos right here. And tomatillos are kind of like an accessory item to salsa, I believe. Like the green salsas use them. I think they're kind of like tart, but these ones here are going to be purple, and the ones in the back are like orange. I then have a number of the red okras that actually germinated, and then I have one green okra in the back that germinated. I think what I did wrong, and these are the okras. What I did wrong is I didn't soak the seeds before I planted them. I think I have enough okra here for my needs, but maybe I'll try a little bit more with the greens. But the red ones are cool. They got little red stems on their leaves, and not that it tastes any different, but it just has a little red to it. Behind it are all the eggplants. So those 3 rows right there are 3 different types of eggplant. Some of them are still germinating. And then behind that are a few peppers. Seems like a lot of the peppers kind of start taking off this week in the back. You can see some of them still have their little seed shell on them. But you know, they're coming up. Peppers are probably my favorite fruit vegetable, and you know, really hope they take off and the deer don't eat them this year. Right here are 2 trays of peppers. You can see the first one is actually germinating pretty well. A lot of them are coming up or have already come up. And in the back, you know, there's still some that are pushing. I can kind of see the seeds in the tray. The one that I'm curious about is in the first row. That's a ghost pepper. And I did see on the seeds that it takes a long time for them to germinate because they have a pretty good heat requirement. So I'm hoping at least 1 or 2 of those pop up. I'd like to make some hot sauce out of them, but you never know. But yeah, these peppers actually germinated the fastest, which is why they're the biggest so far. All right, and then back here we have another tray of peppers. Again, kind of the same situation where a lot of them are kind of just now popping up. You can still see some of the seed coats on them. And then another tray back here, which is a 3rd peppers. Same deal. And in the back you got Italian basil, and then even behind that is Thai basil. The Italian basil has rounder leaves. Thai basil, you can see it's a little bit more arrowhead shaped. But, you know, I love the taste of both and definitely want to get them in the garden. And lastly, basically all the seeds I planted last week, still no germination on their end. You know, my understanding is it takes about 3 to 4 weeks for them to pop up. But I'm hoping to get a pretty good crop. I mean, would like to definitely grow a bunch of these and be able to sell them. And the figs, let's see, the figs themselves are basically just sticks right now, but you know, you go over here and you can kind of tell that the heat is kind of pushing the ones that had buds from the existing tree to start pushing. So hopefully that'll get carbohydrates moving in the plants and encourage them to grow their own roots. So as you can see, there's a lot of things that actually are moving. I'm gonna try to spend the afternoon and pot a bunch of these in those red solo cups I discussed, and basically just keep it them moving, so that way as the roots and plant grow, they have sufficient medium to really get to a nice plug or container size. So that way when we do transplant these into the vegetable beds, they're actually healthy, have really good roots, and can really take off when the outdoor temperatures outside match what's in here. It must be at least like 10 degrees hotter. So about June is when I'll have probably everything out in the vegetable garden. I think my biggest problem, and I always kind of mess this up, is when you're growing plants in a greenhouse, because the greenhouse actually blocks, I think, UVB rays, plants don't build up this kind of suntan. And I know it sounds weird, but plants can get sunburnt. And basically you have to put the plants out into the shade for about a week, so that way they have enough time to acclimate to actually the full sun and the high UV rays. So I'm hoping this year, as I do take these outside and I put them in the shade, that they don't burn. You know, burning the leaves really slows down the growth for like 2 weeks as they push new leaves. And I don't want that. You know, someone who burns very easily himself, I understand how they're feeling. And I'll do my best to do that. And I'll show you guys where I do put them when I do take them outside to acclimate. But anyways, you know, subscribe if you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.